Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and fellow speakers, good afternoon and welcome to the SDG presentation, Youth for SDGs. It is an honor to have you all with us today, both in person and virtually through YouTube or Zoom. As we gather to celebrate the youth, we will participate tuition for our movement towards achieving a sustainable development. My name is Hannah. I am thrilled to be your host for this remarkable event. So today, you are brought together by a shared common agenda to make a positive impact on our world. As we reflect the progress of the SDGs, which was suggested by the United Nations in 2015, we are reminded that the clock is ticking, and with just 7.5 years, which is half of the 15 agenda years, left until the deadline of the agenda, which is the United Nations, along with global citizens like yourself, set out on a transformative path to address some of the most pressing global challenges our world faces, and a plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity. Today, we proudly showcase the efforts of the dynamic group of 60 bright young minds who are currently participating in the 21st Study Program at the United Nations headquarters. These young individuals have dedicated their time and talent to provide innovative youth-oriented solutions that drive us closer to our SDGs, which remain 7.5 as mentioned. Dive into today's presentations, you will witness the true essence of youthful mindsets and innovations. These passionate individuals have worked tirelessly to craft unique responses to the SDGs, bringing fresh perspectives and creative ideas to the forefront. Their dedication to a testament to the power of the youth and shaping a brighter future for all will be showcased from now on. Today, we encourage you to be captivated by the enthusiasm of their young minds and to learn from their insights as well. Back in 2015, the International Society, under the common mission to act towards a better life for all, where no one is left behind in every aspect, has been initiated. The Sustainable Development Goal is based on the destiny of humanity, that the well-being of people, the health of our planet, the pursuit of prosperity, the dream of peace, and the power of partnerships are all interconnected. The point of the implementation of the SDGs and the 2030 Agenda, remarkable strides have been taken across these 5 Ps, which I have mentioned: people, planet, prosperity, peace, and courage. However, the journey is far behind, and we stand at a crucial moment to make every challenges still ahead, making ahead. And as we remain the SDGs call each of us, regardless of age, background, race, even the roles, to contribute our part toward the better world where everyone thrives. Let me now welcome the next presentations, which will be the Young Change Makers. Team 2, C11 Rights, Climate Action and Happy Release. Thank you all. Enjoy the presentations. Today we are discussing one. My name is Maya.
I'm Samuel Saul.
Our topic is economic and social development out of development for the children, inflation, and how it influences the social and economic aspects. Our presentation will have four main parts. First of all is the cognitive and effects. Second of all is case studies. Third are social development. And fourth and finally are
I'll start off by defining based inflation is a continuous where the price level of goods beginning to increase in all value. So the picture shown here, inflation, coffee, late 1970s, one coffee and coffee was $0.25. But as real inflation occurs, 2022, $1.85 is needed to have one coffee. So types and causes of inflation. Firstly, there's demand pull inflation. Demand pull occurs when demand exceeds the available supply and goes so upward pressure on prices. So in the picture here above, there's a lot of fishes, but there's only one bait. Because these fishes, I mean, one bait, the prices of this bait increases. Inflation here above. There are supplies, limited supplies, but the demand grows, so the supplies grows. So built-in inflation. So built-in inflation occurs when workers want higher wages to keep up with rising living costs. So as inflation occurs, more people need higher wages that make up perpetuating cycle, having more wages, and the price of products go up, so it makes it a cycle. Also, cost push inflation is kind of similar to the above, but like cost push arises when the cost of production of the goods increases, causing the pass on the increased cost to consumer and higher price. So in meaning, when making an apple pie, you need an apple and some power, but like the minimum wage increases, so inflation occurs, and also the apple prices increase, meaning that the apple pie's cost increases. So monetary inflation. Monetary inflation is a sustained increase on supply of a country. So when printing out so much money, the money's value will decrease, leading into inflation. So what does inflation affect? Reduce purchasing power. Inflation erodes money throughout these increasing what consumers can buy. So then you got more money, a certain amount of money, both then and now, like the money's price decreases, so you can buy less bonds. So interest rates of central banks raise rates to manage inflation, affecting borrowing costs. So when inflation happens, banks make profit, so they increase their interest rates as inflation improves. Then reduce purchasing power. Saving inflation lowers saving real value after turns. So if you save like $100 like 2005, but inflation occurs now in 2023, the value of the $100 saved from 2005 and now currently is going to continue. And lastly, wage pressures. Workers see higher wage to counter rising costs, like such as like if the prices, like I said, like water and coffee became like $1.25 to inflation. Minimum wages has to increase because the side needs more money to sustain the loans.
Maybe cases we're telling us about positive things. Now we're going to go into case studies to see how specific example we're doing for inflation in different countries. First of all, Venezuela. By people, I think central about Venezuela. Venezuela is Latin America, next to Colombia and Brazil. I'm gonna have you focus on Venezuela because Venezuela is one of the weakest countries for our case studies. The interesting thing about inflation rates in Venezuela is that it has hyperinflation. Venezuela has high inflation starting from 2013. Rapid inflation of Venezuelan currency bolivar started from 2013. So what are the causes of inflation? First of all, one of the causes, the policies of the English dollar budget. On 2001, President Hugo Chavez was elected and made some policies about Venezuela. He made good policies for low-income workers, such as he made improvements on health, poverty, education, and so on. But the money he spent was too much, making it inflation and making the budget. Other causes would be fixed interest rates in the country and related to problem. Venezuela has fixed interest. Usually, fixed interest rate is not a big deal. For developing countries, fixed interest rate rather help increase economy and make them more robust. But for Venezuela, fixed interest rate was actually a problem. Black markets coincide with fixed interest rate, making them make profits out of thin air. And that's one of the problems that we have in place. The last cost is the overspending money very moderately leads to hyperinflation. As stated before, we have three types of inflation: cost plus inflation, demand pull inflation, and lastly, for most monetary inflation. As Venezuela overspended money very moderately, this from 2013 led to inflation and hyperinflation more than 100%, 3,000%. Currently, the Venezuelan inflation rate is decreasing, also known as deceleration. Inflation decreased in recent years, but the rate of inflation is still below 200%. What does that mean? We saw hyperinflation when it's below 50%. And as you can see here, it's about 200%, which is extremely higher than expected. So we're still having hyperinflation. Impact of hyperinflation described in social impact. Massive citizens in Venezuela migrated to other countries such as the United States, Spain, Panama, Ecuador, Peru, Chile, Brazil, Argentina, and lastly, for mostly Colombia. Colombia is a big, but Colombia opened the borders for Venezuela. So lots of Venezuelan citizens moved to Colombia to live here and guaranteed healthcare services and education. Another problem that hyperinflation was food insecurity in health services. The hyperinflation made Venezuela in poverty. Basically, the money devaluated, and people had to use money for toilet papers, like paper bags. This led to food insecurity in health services. And lastly, the corrupt government and social inequality because of the time. That was kind of a problem. Venezuela had authoritative vision that was led by Hugo Chavez, the current president. So Hugo Chavez participated in opposing politicians. The politicians who opposed Hugo Chavez would be banished from the country or maybe in prison, and the country would severe problem and leading to hyperinflation. To summarize, the social impacts can be described in SDG terms. SDG 1, 2, 3, 4, and 10 are heavily damaged because of hyperinflation in Venezuela. What are the economic impacts? We have increased poverty, delayed economic development, poor employment with the wealthy and poor. And this can be summarized in three SDGs: SDG 1, SDG 8, and SDG 10. All these three SDGs are heavily damaged, and this is a very concern for Venezuela. To summarize, it's like this, and make it quick for like 5 seconds. And we'll move on. Now we move on to the Republic of Korea, probably one of the most deadly countries ever. The recent inflation of Korea is quite stable, but it is fairly high in 2022. There was inflation before 2022 because of COVID-19. One of the causes is the reduced supply chain. But after 2022, it generally decreased, showing that Korea is having a robust and healthy economy. We have can say there are many problems about the system, but one of the most notable problems is gender inequality. Korea had rapid industrialization and development during its 20th century. From 2000 to 2019, there were like several developments that Korea became one of the most highly developed countries in the world, but there's still challenges for this area of the world. And we still need more time and money to really only develop this. Lastly, the United States. The inflation rates in the United States can be described in the previous. We have hovered from 1950 to about 2020 century. There was a general decrease because one word, people and countries were not trading well. And there was a great recession in 2007. Between 2007 and 2009, generally lead to reduction in current rates and also monetary policy. And lastly, we have COVID-19 from 2031, which had hyper general. But the impact of inflation, the pandemic widened the gulf between the poor and the rich, making poor work less, and making the rich work more. This led to income inequality, and this was one of the most serious concerns in recent years. The connection with education is not what can we do? A target aging plan. The United States, which is probably the strongest word economic powerhouse, doesn't have to really concern itself with SDGs. As SDGs mostly focus on developing countries, we don't really need to focus why the United States does not have a member of SDGs. But one thing I can describe is that because of COVID-19 pandemic, target age 25 was really damaged because there were more inequalities between the racial groups, and this and the target workers. And that's it.
So first of all, thank you, Samuel, for sharing wonderful studies. And based on Samuel's study on the cases, I'm going to take deep into the different effects on the economy and social aspects based on the information. So first of all, when we talk about the growth purchasing rate, which is basically a negative impact on the economic part. Increase in the general prices over time diminishes the customer's purchasing power. The fixed quantity of money will eventually allow for less consumption. Also, inflation ensures that the entire price level will rise constantly. Summarizing it is that the general price rate increasing will make the customer's purchasing power, which is the amount of things that they can buy with a certain amount of money, will increase. Basically, and as the inflation stays there for a long time, it will going to constantly increase the entire price level. Second effect is the impacts to the low incomers, which is also a negative effect on the social impact. We made a connection to the SDG1, which is no poverty. As inflation increases the general price rate and the price of essential living materials, the expenditure of low incomers increases, causing the negative impacts of low incomers. Slight increases makes the surviving price rate severe for people facing relative poverty. Summarizing is that as the general price rate and the essential living material, which is essential ingredients, things that we should buy to and survive, increases. In low incomers who had barely surviving because they're facing the relative poverty, should have to pay more money to buy the essential living materials, which will cause a severe burden in front of them because they don't have enough money to pay all the price rate in order to have all the things that they had. Third one is first inflation, which is a positive effect to the economy. Steady growth of inflation can prevent sudden increase of general price and interest rate raising due to inflation. Should they focus on suitable inflation growth and support a proper functioning economy? But however, on the other hand, sudden or even steady inflation can cause increase in income or improper change on the economy. Summarizing it is that inflation can also cause a positive effect to the economy by if the inflation is steadily constantly growing, it can prevent a sudden increase on general price and interest rate raising.
which might be caused by employment, and often it should focus to a suitable inclusion, which is inclusion that is proper. It might support the growth of the economy. However, on the other hand, inflation also causes a big negative effects to the economy and might cause a decrease in the income or improper change of the economy. The fourth one is it's both negative and positive, which raises interest rates. The reason why I explained it is as it's both negative and positive is because it varies based on what kind of debts we have. As inflation occurs in general, price increases within the price interest rates of the new borrowers increases. On the other hand, individuals with fixed rate mortgages and other loan gains doesn't get negative influence. Surely this influence debts that normally permanent lenders raise their interest rates up with inflation and Fed rate rates. So getting a little bit deeper into this section, governments and central banks have a strong motive to control inflation. As the aforementioned examples indicate, over the past century, these strategies have been to control inflation using monetary policy. Policymakers can increase the minimum interest rate when inflation surpasses the central bank's target. As a result, inflation and interest rates frequently follow one another. Central banks contain the economy's spirit or risk appetite, and the ensuing price pressure by boosting interest rate of inflation. And the fifth one is reducing unemployment. And this is a positive effect to the social area. In the short term, inflation can boost the growth of the economy and decrease the rate of unemployment. In money value increases with inflation, meaning its costing increases, increasing engaged investment in addition to which there are opportunities of jobs for the unemployed workers. So until here, it's very positive because it shows that inflation can boost the growth of the economy and also increase the rate of unemployment by engaging investors to invest money, which basically creates a lot of jobs, spaces for jobs for unemployed workers. However, on the other hand, the cost of excessive inflation must be paid in the shape of a called recession, which is a Phillips curve. A Phillips curve is an economic concept developed by A.W. Phillips, stating that inflation and unemployment have a stable and inverse relationship. And number 6, which is the last but not least, an increase in inequality, which is basically a negative effect on the social. I made a connection to the SDG number 10, which is reduced inequality within and among countries. General survival price rate increases of the food causing severe burden on relatives and active farmers. Those detrimental effects decreases the gap between two groups causing the increase in inequality between groups. This connect with the SDG 10 reducing inequalities. As the general price rate increases, the money that they have to pay for their general survival growing expenses, which means people who are suffering in relative and absolute poverty are going to suffer more. And people who are suffering in relative might also result in absolute poverty, which increases the gap between ones who are wealthy and ones who are poor, which also creates a bigger inequality between those two groups.
All the different economic impacts of inflation. So now that we've seen all of the ways that inflation has impacted, but what is inflation? Right? Now's the time that we need to take action. It's like Gandhi said, right? Be the shape of products. If you really want something or a problem to be solved, right, then you have to be the one who's initially it so that other people start following. Because if that, and then everyone's repeating each other and waiting for someone to take action, and nothing just going to happen, and then you just report that you definitely not want. That being said, here it is. You have two main parts. First of all, is the proposed solution, and second of all, is a plan. The proposed solutions consist of the 3 countries that Samuel has stated in his case study part, which are Venezuela, USA, and South Korea. First of all is Venezuela, which is unfortunately our negative example. Right, as Samuel said in his part, President Maduro has tried to implement equal to combat inflation, which is by trying to stabilize the oil prices. Right, the Bolivarians basically is the national. However, this actually did not only not cause any positive impact, but also backfired. Because even though now there's more foreign currency in place, however, there's very limited public spending, which means that the citizens are now not willing to spend a lot of money, which means that not only is the dollar value declining, but it's also meaning that the economy is not growing because they're less money, spending money. Second of all is the United States, which is a slightly positive. The United States implemented an act called the Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA, which was signed by President Joe Biden in August 2022. The vision of this act was basically to pause reforms in three major areas, which are government budgets, medicine prices, and clean energy production. What Joe Biden wanted to achieve in this is basically to solve the main SDG with 2010, which was inequality, right? He wanted to diminish costs for lower families by creating wealth and jobs and requiring the rich to pay their fair share of taxes, which helps develop the economy in many different ways. Had an impact after a year, now second year in August 2023. It's actually estimated that the inflation rate of the United States will be lowered by 4%. Final example is South Korea, which is a very positive example of something that has succeeded. So after they're going through like a political instability, after that happened, the new government of Korea actually focused most on trying to solve the economic problems. So they tried to do these things, right? They tried to restructure the business in strategic industries so that would be less reliant on low income and lead to more input and skill training. Skill training programs are important because this means that more people can have access to actually be able to be qualified for the higher paying jobs, which leads to overall sense of employment and also the economy itself developing as a whole. What is so unique about South Korea's approach to this is that they've actually tried to establish consensus building throughout the entire through two ways, which is mobilizing the public sector and to strengthening partnership with key stakeholders that they found were important when it came to solving inflation, which sometimes are famous people, it could be corporations and so on, right? And the impact was that after that, in a decade, the inflation rate of South Africa actually reduced by 18%. It might seem like somewhat of a small thing, but actually compared to what you see in San Francisco, how inflation is always fluctuating, it's always going up and down year. It's actually a good thing considering that South Korea is always the inflation rate in that period of time is actually always going down, and there was very little time that actually went up, right? It was despite the increase. So it's a positive thing. Now moving on to potential solutions. Before we move on to this part, this is a disclaimer that I actually mixed up the two titles of slides. So the first one will actually be the solutions for you, and the second one will be the solutions for the group. So in here we have the 3 R's for the youth, right? That is recognize, reach, and respond. First of all, recognize. Recognize stands for recognizing the problem. Recognizing the problem can only be done when we have first-hand information themselves, and this is done through census. But why citizen lessons, right? Not government lessons like other countries that have always been doing these kind of things. That's because due to some political issues these days and due to like the rise of media and journalism, nowadays citizens are less likely to actually provide correct information to their governments, as opposed to how they're willing to provide information to fellow citizens. Studies have shown that they're actually more likely to trust someone who has been through similar circumstances as them compared to government that might just seem to be looking at everything from a top-down approach. Hence, that's why we chose citizen as the main part of our first phase. Our second phase involves researchers or college students have a kind of like on in research, which is to reach. Reach really stands for reach out. In this phase, we're trying to have deep research analysis to understand the cause, stakeholders, and content behind patients' rights. This analysis is coming from a census that we collected from the past, which is recognized. And we use that data to understand who are the ones who are impacted these rights over the years, right? And what happened during that time. And what can we do to actually stop that thing that is called the negative cycle account. And finally, after all the data has been collected and analyzed, and some kind of trend has been established and finally, right? This is time that we need to have a discussion with the governments, the authorities, and the policymakers. For example, in the US, it might be Congress, or in Venezuela, it's National Assembly. This just means that this is needed for the people and the government to collaborate with each other. Because from what we've learned in a lot of our past lectures, we've learned that communication is an extremely key fundamental part of achieving everything. That comes from the SDGs, from political conflicts, and to all of this inflation. So that's why we believe that in this restoration phase, the most important thing is to have a forum of discussion between the people and the government. And moving on to the 3 R's for corporations. We have three R's, which is recalibrate, repositioning, and replace. Unlike the 3 R's for youth, it's actually not in a positive order, but it's actually three separate strategies that any companies, depending on what their current focus is about. So first of all, we have recalibrate is to use behavioral economics to design public intervention. This is pretty much an umbrella strategy that any company or any corporate can use, because this is just when they're collecting data regarding their customers and their consumers, so they can understand what those people prefer, and they use that for the design study that further attract those people and ask them to buy more products, resulting in more profit. Secondly, is reposition, which is to price change for better value. This is usually the best solution for companies that are currently being advantaged when they're having low cost. Companies that are already being low value or really low cost. So this is when you're changing the pricing to better fit the value. Why is this better? Why do we say this is beneficial for companies who are vulnerable, right? Because when inflation spikes happen, companies, consumers usually see this as expecting that the companies will actually spend a lot, will actually raise the price a lot. And this is actually the time when they can actually use that belief or that perception to an advantage to really make a lot of money. And we believe that this is when they can use that to their advantage to eventually, get out and get into a higher price tier, which could be beneficial for them. And the final R is replace. So this basically means introducing trending pricing models such as subscriptions or product as a service models to accounts. This is the most effective strategy if you're targeting customer group within the young millennial or people. This is most beneficial for those people because due to the rise of pop culture or these days, there are a lot of it's very easy for influencers or famous people basically to create startup of their own, whether it's a clothes store or a restaurant salon or right. So we believe that these kind of things are most easily caught on by the young people, and hence it's more likely to attract customers because of how trendy it is. So as you see in our presentation, right, it's a really long presentation. We've had four main parts of first of all having what is inflation, what is the cause, what is the effect, and analyzing three main effects that we found was pretty much an icon when it came to the conflict, which was Venezuela, South Korea, and the West. And finally get to the solutions that the governments have done that the business can do. And now that US and also. And we emphasize so much and one thing from the previous groups, especially the community, they always emphasize on how the young people. And it's true because now after young generation, it is our and it's the young people's chance to actually make these or exactly self-employed. And so that's why we believe that young people taking a stand actually taking action is so important. And that's why we believe that kind of strategy in our presentation today. So that being said, we hope you guys enjoy.
No additional question for the question. Would like to welcome the next team for the Cyrus School High School.
This is being taught. As team work, we'll be focusing on public security and the SCG 16 case study institutions as shown or actually our presentation will consist of four main parts. First will be an introduction with a short animation on the history of war. That's the explanation of SDG 16 and description of the impact of war. Second off, we will dive into the specific case studies of the conflict consisting of students from conflict and war. Third, we will look into actions and efforts taken by the United Nations and the US. Finally, we will conclude by a general conclusion and question and that means that
The film is about children and it's called Ukraine War in the Perspective of Children. So this is an animation made by the Ukrainian child and kind of passions. So for the case studies, we're gonna look at Sudan and the Russian. So starting off with Sudan, war started in April 15, 2023, and children were hugely impacted. In just the 100 days of fighting, just 475 children were killed, and soldiers needed humanitarian supplies, such as vaccines. This led to epidemic outbreaks and children dying in the government care and things. And for example, soldiers have polluted farms and livestock, which led to children experiencing malnutrition. And also, children are experiencing injuries caused by bombs and landmines, so we become ammunition and and also, it's not just the physical impacts, but it's also the psychological problems such as post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and anxiety. And also, there's the problem of child soldiers, where they're manipulated into being suicide bombers and encouraged to be violent, and they're kind of the primary victims of psychological and physical abuse.
The description of Sudan's armed conflict. Moving on, let's start off with in today's world, there's no longer someone else for another people feel safe to go to war by no longer it's at least when I read this quote by the president, I can identify the message from the effectiveness of the international society. I straight up points out that the war between the nations is not just a bilateral conflict anymore. It will expand massively as the negative impact on neighbor states and the other side of the world and capitalism. Especially with current line of international cooperation, no sort of organization or nation can only conquer these massive wars and conflicts that exist even in the other side of the world. Or in other words, I'm confident that this is also a question of collective action between multilateral support of various stakeholders in this algorithm groups where we actually our presentation. Next up is moving on to the Russia-Ukrainian war. Moving on to the details, let's start with what and why. Let's start with the what and why of Russia. So as many of you may already know, this is the single most significant event in current status quo, and is also being pointed as one of the most infamous war of this decade. And this long-lasting bloodshed first began on February 24th, 2014, and as Russian troops stormed the Ukrainian Empire War, this has been going on for since. And the first scenes were planned in 2013, where the Russian government were planning a one-sided pact with the European Union to save part of Crimea and the eastern Ukraine in a certain plan to recover their platform form of so-called one nation or other nation. In simpler words, this was a manifestation of geopolitical rivalry that is like a full-scale invasion and led to various battles. It's a story long and very complex, coming from historical, cultural, and mostly strategic factors of massive governments, including pro-Russia Ukraine as well, but I'll move on to the primary focus of this presentation. But last thing before doing so is highlighting the overall consequence that is followed with the Bible passages. Just like shown in this list, first set countless war crimes have been made and committed going against some of the most fundamental international laws and community, especially in an international setting of the United Nations. Second, countless sectors starting from economic to social, diplomatic, humanitarian, and or environmental parts have been severely damaged. Last, we had an uncontrollable armed conflict occurring in the middle of populated cities, which is obviously leading to civilian deaths, civilian casualties, injuries, and so forth, and economical disasters. And the biggest problem here is that there is currently no end in sight, and the conflict is continuing for whoever. Next slide is directly focusing on the children. And it is evident that the attacks from the Russian side is not justifiable under all reasons. And this can be seen as an action of greed happening under unreasonable claims to cover up and falsely justify certain actions, including a false historical narrative. And as a result, only irrevocable damage or unreturnable separations have already been made. And is continuing to increase every day in terms of injuries, casualties, destroyed houses, companies, and so on. Moving on, I'd like to point out an important word to recognize or even understand the significance of this agenda, and I think this can be truly done when focusing on value of use, or in other words, the value of child. Youth stage in life connects from factors starting from education to physical and mental growth, and some of the most basic and fundamental parts to how a person can grow, how a child can grow up to live in this future society, what kind of job, what kind of personality that they will bring. And as these figures determine an individual's character, and it's basically the most important preparation stage for a future society. Repercussions are more deadlier than ever, and the constant financial conflict hinders such development, returning as a massive burden will be to the families and to the children themselves, to their surroundings and so forth. Further examining the circumstances for each children in numbers, 535 children have been killed due to the Russian-Ukraine war, 1,047 injured to the state, and the numbers are still growing every year as the war continues. And the biggest problem here is that this is happening all across the world, in Ukraine as well, and in Russia as well, because both sides are continuing to use their armed forces to result in war. And examining the specific cases as a more specific example, the ICC, which is the International Criminal Court, issued an arrest warrant for President Vladimir Putin and their children right commissioner because of their forcibly deporting children to Russia for uncertain reasons. And as an impact, this has separated them from their past society, past family, their friends, and so forth. Similar to this, many children have also been internally and externally displaced off in the world. And this opens an increased exposure to crimes such as abuse, sexual exploitation, human trafficking, and so forth. And this is all occurring as a secondary consequence of the fundamental problems that exist. Even in mental health, an estimated 1.5 million children are at risk of depression, anxiety, PTSD, and other health issues with potential long-term effects.
I'm going to talk about how to supporting children at work. As noted above, to ensure the safety and well-being of children during armed conflicts, the UN is contributing. So, children protection mechanism and compliance with international laws, such as the Convention on the Right of the Child. This includes measures to prevent the recreation of children and other forms of violence. Education is a basic right that should not be compromised, even in times of war. The UN works diligently to ensure that children protected by conflict have access to quality education, enabling them to regain a sense of normality.
inspire central skill and build a better future. The trauma and psychostructure scores left by work can be left. The UN places a high priority of support, counseling, and mental health services to help children heal and recover from the horrors they have suffered. Child soldiers are among the most endangered victims of armed conflict. Staff plays a critical role in the recovery and integration of these children into their school, giving them a chance to review their future. Staff work closely with governments and non-governmental organizations to secure the release of child soldiers and support their safe return to their families. Special programs were designed to provide education, vocational training, and psychosocial support to enable these children to integrate successfully.
Alongside the continuous efforts from the United Nations that has just been mentioned in the speech, as shown, other stakeholders, including NGOs, non-governmental organizations, utilize their characteristics to maximize the support for each nation and for the international society in general, especially for children. And with each specific organization serving a distinct purpose or like a certain objective that they wish to finally meet and a message that they want to deliver. Certain NGOs may focus on the child, certain NGOs may focus on the environment and so forth. In this situation, most of the identical objective of these NGOs is to provide aid, support, and assistance for individuals. Moving on, major organizations that really epitomize the origin and meaning of a humanitarian NGO continue to provide an easily recognizable change into our society, especially in situations of armed conflict. And a relevant example is War Child, which has been active in tackling the conflict and violence in many different regions, especially very clearly the Democratic Republic of Congo. And their primary accomplishments include psychosocial support, which is regarding these psychological parts and their ability to socialize when reintegrating back into society, as well as education to former child soldiers who are not able to receive the same equal opportunity as others in the same age or in the same others with the same age but in a different age. And this they have continuously put in efforts to set up a path to help child soldiers reintegrate back into society, and also for displaced girls, which I have mentioned before in my Russian-Ukrainian War speech as well. They have been empowered and protected, especially from crimes like exploitation. Similarly, I'm sure many of you have heard of this organization, Save the Children. Is a leading international organization for specifically focusing on children. So it's very relevant to the current event that happened. And the accomplishments include establishing child-friendly spaces, which is also more well known as CFS, in a refugee camp and all throughout the world with the armed conflict, but usually very well seen in the Syrian civil war. They primarily focus on providing a safe environment, including education and basic assistance. And this opportunity, this certain area provides children the opportunity to socialize and receive support in various factors, which they would have missed out due to the conditions that they were. And this accumulates assist children in coping with the repercussions and help them in the future in general. And besides this specific project, basic resources were of course delivered, including emergency medical care or nutrition, education. Finally, in a contemporary conflict of the Russian-Ukrainian war, for instance, an NGO, Station Park, which is a volunteer initiative founded in 2014 in response to Russian aggression, like I said before, is directly linked to the Russian-Ukrainian war, really plays a crucial role. And as I talked about minutes ago, again about the issue with internal and external displacement, where children are exposed to various crimes and also the secondary consequences or secondary repercussions that exist. Carpus is a primary mission to spread internally displaced people to reintegrate back to the community. communities with proper resources. And this is the specific message that they have, the very unique objective that they hold in their action, especially because they are specifically focused on the Russian community. And with these proper resources, the aim is to reach 100,000 people by 2022. And starting off from scratch, this is their effort and also their results coming back. Moreover, the International Rescue Committee, as you can see right below, is more serving for the Ukrainian partners and to support Black nations for women and children within Ukraine and providing more psychological care, delivering good cash and focusing on the basic necessities. And even while focusing on basic necessities, and even without a specific audience like the child soldiers or so forth, this provides the necessary effort that can help the reintegration process back into society from worse situations. Just final words before moving on to the next slide. I'd like to summarize that it is of vital importance to recognize that only through the support and collective effort of NGOs, of the UN, and of member states is certain change possible, including the hundreds of thousands of NGOs and their mission and message. And with only one stakeholder involved, the current amount of change and effort for collaboration.
Former US President John F. Kennedy once said, children are the world's most valuable resource and its best growth for the future. And personally, I think this is true. And we've seen this quote proven by climate activism and people like Greta Thunberg who have really made a difference to gather and youth together to work for a change. So children together can play a big role in society. But although they're overlooked sometimes, maybe that's been barrier in adults, but that's not true. And so what can we do as children to use our voice to advocate for and help children living in foreign areas? Well, first we can use online platforms such as Instagram to spread a message because the online world is a place that's acceptable to everyone. So for example, we've seen activism with hashtags, hashtag Me Too or hashtag Black Lives Matter movement, which has spread the message to everyone anywhere. And we can also include images of, for example, a child in Sudan who's experiencing the effects of the war, and the description of who this photo is of and who's born and where it was taken. And always a reminder and a link to local organizations such as UNICEF to donate. We could also use school clubs for fundraising. We could sell books and work with student council in order to use the money that we've got from ticket selling or baking to send to local organizations such as that. And we always have academic programs with the United Nations. Here we have the summer event programs. For example, the first one is about ancient peace, challenge for the summer event. The second one is a marathon. So by participating in such academic programs, we're really getting the benefit we're out of nature and local living in so for the Christine connects with children who are living in war-torn areas. Right now, children in Sudan and Ukraine are being psychologically and physically impacted by violence. To help them, the United Nations and children in other communities can raise awareness and take action for this system. Pablo Picasso once said, action is the foundation to all success. So as part of the future generation and the global society, we should all take action to help children living in war-torn areas, starting with that. We hope that this presentation was inspirational. Thank you.
For the final remarks, we would like to see if there are any questions for the Q&A session. We see none, that we would like to. We would just like to receive it for the closing remarks. And thank you for listening to our presentation tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for discovering that children may be affected by the conflict. And now I would like to welcome the another team who will cover the environmental issue, focusing on the need and the map.
Your season. And the theme of our group was the environment, and therefore we selected issues associated with SDG 13, which is climate change. And our presentation will be about sea level rise based on climate change and global warming. We will present the rise implications starting with emissions and brief explanation about sea level rise.
The extent of possible phases due to rise in sea level has long been upright as the worst case scenario that is about to come to the climate change. For there, many of you who still don't know, climate change is causing sea level rise, and the sea level really is high. Sea level rise refers to raising sea level. It is also used to describe the general sea level rise for other aspects of Earth system, but is generally referred to the eventual rise of seawater due to global warming caused by climate change. Climate change is a major contributor to sea level rise. There is no use of measurement by satellite. We have 40-meter sea level plus show that the sea level are not only rising, but accelerating much faster than we ever imagined. Greenland, but two tons of lasers enough to cover the entire U.S. states of Florida, 5 centimeters of legal. This presentation, we will look at what city otherwise needs one is built and more importantly, what to do about and what solution to the issue. Sea level rise is cut by global. Let's talk about global. Climate change is defined as climate change that is taking place over a long period of time. In the given area over the past 100 years, our climate temperature is over that. At any time in history, the temperature of Earth has not changed by more than 1 degree in the last 10,000 years, but it is that has risen by 0.6 degrees in the last 100 years. This phenomenon excessive temperature increase in the Earth is multiple global. That what could the global warming? There are 3 big reasons. First, generating electricity and if by burning fossil fuels coming from global burning electricity fuel generated from burning oil or gas, which produce carbon dioxide and dioxide. Purple green clouds gases have blanket to the earth and mark the sun. Second, manufacturing industry produces something from burning fossil fuels to produce energy for making like cement, iron, steel, and energy. Mining others which is beyond present on food with gases
and understand especially to the manufacturing process often and some material like plastic and need a chemical source of the manufacturing industry. One of the largest contributors to green that they're cutting down forest to climate to create more very realistic. The increased density or release the carbon they have made from each year approximately 12 million hectares of forest are destroyed. These forests also carbon dioxide. Destroying them also limits nature's ability to ingest vegetation together with agriculture and all other plants is responsible for roughly part of over greenhouse gas emissions. But why global warming is major for us? It is because the global warming can cause higher temperature, not enough food for other diseases. Recreation or certification, we drew attention to the SDGs, 13 goals. The main topic of this is action to combat climate change and its impacts. Therefore, from now on, we will go into teach about how to solve the problem of sea level rise and problem over.
So let me explain why the sea level rise is not. So with the rise of temperature, as a result of the river, Zion causes the rise of sea level, is also affected by water. According to the excellent of temperatures and ice and that expansion are the two major causes of sea level rise. As you can see, the melting of the glaciers and thus as one of the tender rivers of the rising sea level of substantially. The glaciers and ice sheet located on Antarctica, Greenland, and various mountain ranges around the world began to melt, even before global warming intensified. However, as a result of global warming, the average temperature of the Earth has risen and is steadily moving up with the melting precipitation from July to September to subsequently, which also diminishes snowfall rate and satisfy the moderate amount of glaciers distributed on the mountain. According to the statistics, the snowfall index are recognizable in state level. The difference between 2022 and 2023 is the snowfall and amount of the which shows the decrease of snowfall. We don't need this graph to show this perfectly, but if you look at the amount of ice all over the world, as a result, the number of glaciers that seem to is linked to the American glaciers. The melted ice contributed to a significant volume of that finds its way into rivers and eventually to the ocean. This influx of red water into the ocean raises sea level, adding to the overall sea level rise. Furthermore, the amount of liquefied water is more massive than evaporated water, occurring in the rise of sea level. Melting glaciers are a global phenomenon occurring across Earth from the polar ice caps to mountain ranges. This widespread melting contributes to sea level rise on the poles. As
As mentioned earlier, the current global warming situation is even as time goes by. From 1951 to 2022, the global temperature increased by 0.89 Celsius. Scientifically defined thermal expansion is a phenomenon that occurs when temperature changes with the growth of the mass of the matter in the case of temperature. Basically, when water absorbs heat, it's molecular gain and molecular diversity. As a molecular diversity, it's a little more attractive force of heat. This results in an increase in the distance between the molecules. In the case of liquids like water, this increased molecular caused by causes the substance to expand. In a context of sea level rise, it's a consequence of the ocean absorbing from warming atmosphere. The Earth's ocean acts as a massive heat sink, absorbing about 90% of the excess heat generated by the water. As the atmosphere warms, the oceans also heat up. This increase in ocean temperature leads to the explosion of water molecules, causing the volume of the ocean to when seawater heats up, its molecules become more energetic and more move further apart, causing the water to expand. This expansion leads to the rise in sea levels. So once water is expands due to thermal energy, it takes up more space. This expansion contributes to an increase in overall volume contribution, which in turn leads to a rise in sea levels. Approximate value of thermal expansion can be stipulated to the equation denoting the thermal expansion of certain object. Before further explanation based on the equation, it requires that there are listed indicators that appear as being part of the equation is discordant with the entering value, which is thoroughly perfunctory expansion. This is simply illustrated as a means of direct demonstration of the learning and sea level rise. As we can see here, the equation that shows the change in volume due to thermal expansion is change in volume equals beta times volume times change in temperature. And beta here is going to be expansion, and the water's beta is 210 times 10⁻⁻⁶. The equation here is to represent the change in volume due to a change in temperature. The rate here is a volume of the matter of movement, and the phi of the T in the equation is change in temperature, and the matter is water in the ocean, which will be assumed as distilled water. By this equation, it is able to observe how much is 1 cubic centimeter of water spent when 0.89 Celsius. The amount will be 210 times 10 to minus 6 times 1 times 0.89, which is 1.869 times 10 to the minus 4. It appears to be a small quantity. However, the full amount of water only in the ocean is 1,335,000,000 kilometers. It represents the mass of the water in the ocean multiplied by about 239,595 kilometers in 1980. While the expansion of the single water molecules in the neutral, the cumulative effect of the best volume of water in different oceans is it was small increase in temperature and leads to substantial rise in sea level. Certainly, the rate between rising water temperatures and sea level rise is complex and interconnected phenomenon that unfolds over time. The further burden of the Earth's atmosphere due to human activities, primarily the emission of greenhouse gases, leads to the cascading effects that contribute to the expansion of seawater and the melting of the surface and sea ice. The
the distribution increasing average temperatures and sea level rise is spread on some system driven by the thermal expansion of the water and the melting of ice and time. The persistence of elevated temperatures ensure that these effects continue to accumulate over time, causing significant shocks in the communities and the those effects are slow but steady progress and is ongoing as long as they are continue to absorb excess. In other words, if the average temperature perceived to increase in temperature, the sea level rise 1%. I want to support our extreme problems of the crisis of this to the Pacific basis. First of all, using the capital is finally knowledge architecture against the major Italian work that is one of the doors of the stores and others. And has included in the southeastern part of the country, also in some of the most prominent local schools. These are very yes, the same struggle in groups. Lessons in local discipline. These are some ground rules of the groups for the last century. And studies for the persons, the geologists, and the was of the hospital research, and researchers were such as that new word seeking as possible. The average seeking rate is 7.2 areas as opposed to the coastal areas is only 1 it's not the first thing is for the global weather is going to see other than from supporting stores at the point. There was when this is not there was an apple or existence of these as an apple shape yourself as a community of the same all the best for one of those the water was and this once this issue the second
Are worse than the target. Everyone's starting to address the problem. Well, first of all, it's simple. If we can control tonight's, we might as well block the tonight's in the city and the prisons. Well, they are doing by the projects. Government minutes, they're doing the project. First. In 2012, Hurricane Sandy has destroyed not only the financial district of Manhattan, such in the fundamental pillar of the world economy, but also destroyed the homes of several 95,000 residents who are very low end of the state and very top of the state, without no transportation or communication or any kind of supplies. This disaster called for attention for governments, and the U.S. Department of Housing and Development opened the competition called the Design to Build by Design competition. This competition, the European Group, also known as the EIG Group, teamed up with a bunch of other architectural companies and formed up a team to create the project. Now, the big project is made to protect the lower areas of Manhattan from flooding areas. And the name comes from the fact that the lower border of Manhattan is like here. And the big project consists of 3 parts. The first part is called the Bridging Road, which is in the East River Park region, the East Coast region of Manhattan. And it's protected by a 14-feet high dam and a park area surrounded by a riverside to act as a bulwark against tides and wind. And also the BIG bench is located between the Mountain Bridge and the Brooklyn Bridge on the southeast coast of Manhattan. And this area is protected by a series of flood walls and gates that will protect the area from flooding and different floods. When these walls are undeployed, the area is used as lastly, the Battery Road, as the name suggests, is located in around the Battery Park, which is around the financial district of Manhattan, and the lower west side of this area will be implemented with an elevated promenade to preserve the peripheral areas and flooding. Also, a maritime building below the ground to act as a reverse secondary flooding. So basically how a reverse secondary works is when the area is flooded, the maritime building below the ground would act as a window to look through the flooded areas and work with the areas. Next, we have BESS, which is initiating most named after the local figure Moses. It's about building a wall of floodgates around the lagoon of Venice so that the sea levels around Venice can be maintained levels. The idea itself was actually introduced in 1992, but it is still yet to be operational, and the constructions are anticipated to be finished in 2022. The seasonal high tides that were really mentioned, Sarah called for such conclusion, are called aquamalta, Italian high waters, which is an exceptional tide peak that occurs periodically in the northern Adriatic Sea, which is seen by the signs in the peninsula of Italy and Venice. Due to climate change, this occasional phenomenon has become more frequent, sea levels and the sinking of the city itself. Due to the pressure of buildings, tourists, and residents, the city is facing serious problems. In order to resolve this project, most focuses on matching the surface levels of Venice and sea levels rising into the maintain flow. Floodgates are based in three regions, the River Islands we call the middle, not far from Venice. Along lying the same in the picture is the island middle, and the circle areas are where the flood is. So, when highs are low, it's the moments of water. However, at night times on the sewer space point, emergence for Venice is manually activated by the sea parts to block the tides and create the dam of the ocean. And though there are some concerns that if sea levels continue to rise, the solution would only be temporary and the sea levels rise higher than floodgates. For now, it is expected to prosper following its surface. But apart from these governmental actions and policies, individuals can also be ready for flood problems. The first step in protecting a home is knowing what the property's flood risk is, and individuals can search their address and related websites to find their property or mistakes. Next, buying flood insurance is also a smart credit. And these premiums can be reduced when the community takes action to increase its overall risk and when individual takes steps to make their home safer. These methods to make their home safer. One is raising the heating fluid system component. Electric meters are currently on pace before the ground level of their homes into local flood risk. This can prevent future damage to expensive systems and also reduce flood maintenance. And also raising the houses, the heights of the houses are short of the house using wooden stilts. Lastly, obviously, if your region is commonly facing flooding problems, the best way is. But these are only short-sighted solutions, and most importantly, in order to prevent the problem that sea level rise is probably the best way, we should focus on saving the environment and focusing on the next community. You can donate or participate in environmental volunteer groups or simply just spread awareness. The gist is that if we don't take action on saving the planet as we do right now, these solutions will be useless no matter what. That is in the
I have a question. That one, why especially why especially you better not like that earlier that was right.
There are the most famous and influential cities that are facing these problems. Other cities that are facing the problem is Miami, Amsterdam. But Manhattan is a economically very important city and a crowded city. And also Venice is very known for its tourism and symbolically is the most well-known city that's facing water. And this space is a good problem. So I thought picking these two cities would be ideal to spread the
Thank you for covering the environmental impact and underlying positive effects of the sea level rise. And now we'd like to welcome the very last voice of change, sustaining human rights.
Well, we are thinking and strategy and impact for sustainable rights. Of course, our main topic is go over. We talked about our these program and we 17 goals and then move on to the main topic, which is contributing to 4 different countries to reach our goals of this goal. Also, presenting some guidelines that four countries, China, Iran, and India, and last, we looked at our education, including a summary of our. Firstly, what's the relationship between the SDG goals and human rights? If we explain it in a broad way, human rights are fundamental when achieving 17 goals and SDG goals. And trying to explain it in a narrow way, the federal goals including goal number 5, gender inequality, and goal number 10, inequalities within and between countries, are especially dedicated to improving human rights. With equality and non-discrimination as part of the 2030 agenda for to realize human rights of all people, and hopefully no one behind in all three dimensions and social, environmental, and economic. And firmly anchors human rights principle and standards. So like this, the SDG goals and human rights are relatively very technical. Thank you, Yonsei, for the introduction. I'll be starting off by talking about Greece. So Greece is ranked 28 among the 193 nations that participated in developing the Sustainable Development Goal. Overall, Greece appears to be on a satisfactory rate in developing and containing their progress toward achieving the 17 SDGs. However, with the degree of equality of the top SDGs, which is responsible consumption and production, Greece had scored a 78.4 for the country score. The 3 main causes for this include production-based nitrogen emissions embodied in imports and exports of plastic waste. According to the Sustainable Development Report, it appears that Greece has been lacking the performance of responsible consumption and production. Although Greece has enacted an array of strategies to support the patterns of consumption and production in their nation, we reported a value of 40.0 in production-based nitrogen emissions, a value of 22 in nitrogen emissions embodied in imports, and 5.2 in exports of plastic waste, which are causing the downfall in the performance of the consumption and production patterns in Greece. Increasing their awareness of these issues in particular, Greece has been making a commitment to achieving the objectives of the 12 SDGs responsible consumption and production, which is to develop ways to promote energy efficiency and provide access to more certain services and a better quality of life. This is essential for the conditions of Greece due to the data and reporting the amount of waste that Greece generates. According to the European Environment Agency, Greece produces about 5.6 million tons of municipal waste annually. Furthermore, the waste generation in Greece has 6% since 2015. So, what is Greece doing to develop a more sustainable environment regarding waste production patterns? One of the ways is implementing eco-friendly and renewable resources. According to Real Greece, one of the goals that Greece has set is to reduce 60% of its energy from renewable resources by the year 2030 and implement policies to encourage wind and solar power, which is why today wind turbines, solar farms are in remote areas. Second, Greece is transitioning to a low carbon economy. According to the IEA, Greece has been attempted to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, increase its use of coal-fired generation, and reform its electricity and natural gas markets. It is shown that Greece is taking important steps in reducing the use of coal and toxic materials and speeding up the process of renewable energy projects. Finally,
Transitioning to a circular economy mode for sustainable production and consumption patterns. A circular economy, by definition, is an economic system based on the reuse and regeneration of materials and or products. In early 2018, Greece's Governmental Economic Policy Council validated the National Action Plan to promote a circular economy. According to the National Circular Economy Strategy Greece, the long-term goals of the action plan include preventing waste and improving recycling, promoting industrial symbiosis, supporting circular consumption patterns, enhancing multi-stakeholder partnerships, and monitoring progress towards a CP model for SMART indicators. By endorsing the plan, Greece is hoping to see the country's economy become more sustainable. Overall, Greece is enacting ways to achieve their goal of developing a more sustainable environment and strategies to the patterns of responsible consumption and production. With the notable steps that Greece is taking, we have years of opportunities to great changes in the nation and increase their nation's value. On the other hand, additional help may be needed, such as raising awareness between the nation's people and caring enough to come together to plan strategically for a better and healthier place for future generations. What we can do as rising generations of the future includes recycling and reuse waste, adopting sustainable practices, minimizing food loss and waste as much as possible. Basically, what we're told to do for kids. It's not the big and serious changes that can make a difference in the world, but often it is little and simple steps that we remember to do that can really help out the planet that we're living in and make this world a healthier place to live in together. I'll tell you guys about China. According to Sustainable Development Report 2023, China ranked 63rd out of 893 nations that are participating in the FNP based on their overall score that measured the total progress toward achieving the total score was 72.01 out of 100. Generally, their current progression is ongoing at a relatively good rate, especially showing many improvements in goal number 1, no poverty, and goal number 4, poverty. However, they also present major challenges to several goals, particularly showing a low average performance rate on goal number 10, reduced inequalities on certain goals, which is becoming a national problem. Inequality in China can be really seen in two categories: economic inequality and inequality. For economic inequality, especially after the pandemic situation, since they caused a decline in rural income and also created increase in job inequality, which refers to labor circumstances of having increased in jobs. The topic is caused by many different factors, but two of the chief reasons are the hukou system of China and the tax system of China. The hukou system of China refers to the official document issued by the government, specifically used for population registration. The problem with the system is that it registers individuals permanently. Even if people move from one place to another, they aren't officially documented in their new location because of the hukou system. Since people are permanently located in the place, people are able to receive benefits and support unless it's a registered place application, causing an inequality between people living in the same area and also between districts, because developed areas have no support that is provided, which further intensifies the economic inequality. Another reason the tax system in China is in a way which favors the higher income and pressures the lower incomes. Because currently, China's tax system is mostly direct or transaction based, which tends to pressure the lower income more because they share more of their income on us. Due to these reasons, China's economic gaps are increasing. Another aspect of the inequality in China is the inequality in education. Although it is known that China provides quality in education, and it is true that they provide those quality can be seen nationwide. This is majorly because the quality of education is heavily influenced in location and in the number. Additionally to the fact that in rural areas, when our parts to receive quality education compared to children living in urban area,
Children living in countryside are more likely to suffer health problems that could affect their ability to learn, since many rural areas lack health medical centers and human resources. Also, since China's number of informal jobs are increasing by many above, many parents are currently struggling to help their kids get quality education, which are very costly. And this can lead to a failure in succeeding in high skilled jobs with high incomes, which is highly related to economic inequality that I mentioned above. As you can tell, the two inequality problems are very closely related to each other. To solve these gaps, global changes can be made by the Chinese government. First change that can be made is adjusting the control system to allow people to change their location. Allowing people to change their location instead of permanently documenting individual locations at birth can help close the age gap between districts, since it can help people to see different support for their actual location. This can make the government budget aids in a way it is helping people who need help first instead of considering their location first. For the educational inequality aspects, opportunity and hearing for quality education is government. The government should search for a way to find ways to provide more opportunities for people in rural areas. They can also access to quality education to have a chance to get a right income job, which can also address economic inequality. Lastly, ask for youth actions to help address this problem, spreading awareness and the importance of closing these gaps in society's system. Highly unequal societies can erode trust with less sustainable economic growth and others. So it is important to acknowledge the difference of this problem. Since these kind of actions not only just help a certain country, but help the whole world improve as a whole, you can take actions such as working with related NGOs, which for Healthy China Inequality, oversee China Information Foundation with financial supporting programs, internet school programs, library programs, and other programs to help children's education institutes. Others, such as participating in campaigns related to children's education in rural areas and their importance, and volunteering is also a great way to support and spread the importance of this topic.
So we're continue with the next topic, Iran. Iran's current gender inequality problem is emerging as a serious crisis against human rights. According to the Gender Inequality Index in the data, Iran ranked 115 place among 191 countries, while distributing 5.6% of seats for life to women, while ranking below 115 place since 2015. Places Iran in the lower range of gender inequality among the countries. Iranian women are still from societal opportunities and are under pressure from democracy. They're often discouraged from achieving education, freedom of dress, and respect for women. Therefore, Iranian women have been sacrificed as victims of discrimination. In recent, however, the atmosphere is changing, as the importance of human rights and methodologies to reinforcement emerges. The perspective of global citizens are differently in the direction. People and organizations are participating in actions to help the victims of discrimination out of their desperate situation and lead them to a brighter future. If the Iranian women themselves are arbitrarily engaging in political movements, such as protests to acquire their rights. For instance, there is a well-known instance of Massa on video. A lot of people stood up to the Iran government for beating her for an unacceptable reason, which is the fact that she wasn't dressed appropriately, eventually leading her to responsibility. Now, Iran is showing for equality and freedom from religious oppression. Since disrespect against women is induced by the conventional ignorance of society, which causes discounts of women's opinions, Iran is losing the benefits it could have acquired. According to arrangement as a professional officer devoting her efforts to the UN Department of Economy as a result there are a lot of problems that can arise from social inequality. Highly unequal societies often show their downsides, little effect at reducing poverty, slow living, and less successful economic growth compared to other countries, and perpetuating inequality across generations. This is the Great Gatsby curve. The Great Gatsby curve, which is a great example of perpetuating inequality of considerations, shows that in societies with high income inequality, it's often harder for people to move up or down the economic ladder of consideration.
the neighboring vertical link between inequality and limited social mobility, resembling beings from the noble of the great West. So Islam, the Iranian people's home, is a religion that consists of devoting fear, strict discipline, and the only God they follow. There are 1.8 million Muslims worldwide, especially concentrated in the Middle East, North Africa. All of their aims are to live a life satisfied with the direction of Allah and the Prophet Muhammad. Yet, women in Islamic culture are often treated poorly compared to men. Many of their disciplines exhibit discrimination against women. In inheritance law, for instance, the interpretation of the Quran claimed that women deserve half the inheritance portion of man. Furthermore, the territories ruled by the Taliban, in which women are banned from education and medical treatment by male doctors, Muslim women cannot acquire proper care with injured wounds. Because women can study to become a doctor, most women are eventually capped from the right to acquire proper treatment. This lack of opportunities and service offered to women from social protest and the right to personal happiness. However, it has been at the center of the U.S. attention due to its ignorance of women's rights. According to the United Nations Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner, UN concerns are tested against the unfortunate and unacceptable death of the previous commission Mansa. The expert said, "We're shocked and deeply saddened by the death of Miss Anjali. It's another victim of your sustained repression and systematic discrimination against women, and the imposition of discriminatory dress codes that deprive women of bodily autonomy and the freedoms of opinion, expression, and belief." Despite previous efforts, the problem is still unchanging and complex. Until now, most of the efforts are external influences. Since stubborn constructions such as Islamic society are hard to split within, even the experts were capable of shaping and destabilizing the system. Now it's time to start changing from the inside. Little did you know that the popularity of foreign culture is rising in Iran. For example, K-pop is gathering huge attention in Iran. Iran's female population, according to Korean music culture, is now also affected by this active fan culture, which is leading them to social action. Young way calling for changes might be the main thing to help with the gender inequality problem. So supporting Iranian women to communicate and cooperate with others will help them gain social energy to learn how to affect global society with their work. Hence, offering Iranian women opportunities to interact with women of foreign countries on the basis of cultural completion will motivate them to expand their societal influence and chances of approaching territorial areas. The absent labor and support from UN organizations, the gender equality problem in Iran will be larger. Yeah. In conclusion, human rights and sustainable development goals are closely connected, making the accomplishments of SDGs a crucial task. These two aspects are intertwined, highlighting the importance of focusing on SDGs. The link between human rights and sustainable development is clear, guiding us towards a meaningful direction. When considering a broader impact, it's evident that achieving the SDGs should be a top priority. Therefore, our collective efforts should be directed towards the governmental objective, ensuring a fair and equitable network.
Yeah, as the screen says, we are the leading force for sustainable development and key agents for social change, economic growth, and technological innovation. So for now, over the course of this event, we have been very privileged to listen to 16 innovative ideas and bright mindsets for all of you. So thank you so much for bringing the SDGs, which will be the most promising agenda for the United Nations and all of us. And yes, this will be the wrap up of this message presentation. And you will all be able to view this presentation. It's recorded on our YouTube channel. So after you go back home, you can feel free to search Hope to Future on our YouTube and you'll be able to find the video. All right, thank you so much for everyone. We were enjoying here.